Hi, everyone. This is Sebastian Traeger, and welcome back to another episode of Reliability 4.0. As always, we're on a mission to make the world a more reliable place. And today, I am looking forward to being joined by Kaylee Glebe and Corey Tesmer with Haleon in Lincoln, Nebraska. Kaylee and Corey, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it, and we're looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you. We're both looking forward to it, too.
Great. Well, just to kind of get started, let us know a little bit about Haleon. I know you're one of the largest companies in the world as it pertains to consumer healthcare, but why don't you go ahead and kind of share what the whole company is and then what you all do there in Lincoln?
Well, here in Lincoln, we have numerous products that we manufacture and distribute out to the world. Our biggest, what we live by, what we go with, and we're trying to deliver that better everyday health with humanity. Right. So we need to supply our customers with that medication that some of them depend on in their day-to-day function. We have numerous products. I'm hoping you're all familiar with those. And we take a lot of pride and stuff in what we deliver for our products, just how it helps people manage their day, whether it's colds or headaches.
Yeah, and here at Lincoln specifically, we'll manufacture and package it. A lot of the brands that you're going to recognize are the Excedrin brand, the Benefiber, Gas-X, and Theraflu and Polident brands.
Well, that's great. I mean, it's so great to work with customers. And I should say to everybody on this podcast, Haleon is a customer of Reliability Center and Easy RCA. And so that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today is how Haleon is using Easy RCA specifically. But again, just kind of sticking with you two on a personal note, why don't you guys each kind of give your quick journey into reliability? How did you end up where you are? What's the kind of quick path that you took to get there?
So my background is chemical engineering, and I started my career in the process side. So kind of keeping our packaging lines running, doing investigations, troubleshooting, things like that. So it kind of naturally led from the process side into the maintenance and the reliability side to bring that process expertise to how we can better our equipment and kind of just the overall reliability for our lines.
And I started here 20 years ago as a packaging equipment operator. So I ran the equipment, then moved into maintenance as an electrician, electronic technician, did 9 years there, then moved into the reliability department, writing the PMs, managing the CMMS. And now the latest step is moving into the planner position. So the operations maintenance planner, doing that part.
That's awesome. And are you both from Nebraska or did you have to kind of move there?
Yeah. So went to high school, college in Nebraska. So it's kind of been my home base for a while now.
Same here.
Well, I was just mentioning this. I had the privilege of going to a Cornhuskers football game a couple of years ago. It was super fun and loved the school spirit. I loved how it seemed like the whole city comes out for those games. So that was really fun.
Fun fact, it becomes the third largest city in Nebraska on game day. The stadium does.
Literally just the stadium. That's amazing. What is that sandwich called that it's kind of famous there?
The Runza.
Runza. There it is. The Runza. That was pretty delicious. So if you're listening and you're ever in Nebraska at a Cornhuskers game, definitely go get the Runza there. That was delicious. Well, great. Well, as I mentioned, Haleon has been a customer of Easy RCA, I think for about almost a year now. I know the process began about then. So talk a little bit about what led you on that journey to take a look at that.
Well, when I started as a technician in the maintenance shop, we had a breakdown analysis is what we performed for any equipment failures that we had. And this was a paper version. So we were filling these out on paper, doing drawings on paper, doing our 5 whys, all of that. After I moved into the reliability position, that was handed over to me to run. And one of the things that I picked up from the technicians and from my experience is doing it on paper's long. It's tedious. So at that point, I had developed an Access database and we had a digital version of it. With that in mind, that was 10 years ago. And so this had been aging. It had not been able to keep up with computers. It was a 32-bit. It needed a lot of work. It was a labor-intensive process to distribute those completed forms after they were done. So that's when we started our search. We started our journey and stuff on looking for an easy RCA method. And then we actually came across your software and started diving into that.
So you all started with kind of a paper-based process. You migrated that onto kind of a homegrown solution. We hear this quite a bit, that kind of journey people are on. and then just said, wait, we need something modern. We're not a software business. So how can we find tools out there? What kind of factors influenced your decision specifically on our product? Why us over other alternatives that you saw? And I'm not looking for you naming anyone else, just kind of high level things that kind of stood out.
Honestly, the user interface, the ease, like when Corey and I were diving into the software and picking up just on how easy it was to build the RCAs, how quick we both caught on to making it. I'm going, okay, this is going to be an easy thing for us to roll out to our guys. They're going to get familiar with it very quickly. And then another big perk for us was when you finish the RCA and you get that report out at the very end that we could customize to like our own look. That's something that has been a great selling point with our leadership team because it now standardizes the way that our breakdowns and our RCAs look across the shop.
That's great. Obviously putting our name easy on Easy RCA, you have a lot to look up for. So it's encouraging to us to hear you all say that claim of ours is actually true. Like it is easy to use. That's obviously what we strive for. And we're really glad when we started customizing those reports, we knew that management really appreciates, I like the words you just used, that standardization. So that's encouraging to hear. How was that implementation process? So you finally said, okay, we're going to pick this solution. Let's get started. How has that implementation been in terms of rolling it out?
So we started with doing some classes with your team, kind of building our own knowledge base with the admin level users. And then from there, we wound up doing kind of small group sessions with each of our different shift techs and kind of rolling it out to them. Spent a long time kind of explaining what the software was, how to navigate it, how to build things, and then we let them loose in the areas. Now, the part that I thought was really cool during our implementation was we're rolling it out to our maintenance techs, and the rumor mill started going about to all of our other departments, and suddenly Corey and I had our operations team and our quality team and everybody knocking on our door going, so what's this? What are you doing?
So have they ended up kind of adopting as well?
Yeah, so it's gone beyond just our breakdowns. Now it's to just our root cause analysis and troubleshooting across the shop, which I think is really encouraging and great to kind of integrate that in with even more processes here on site.
That's great. And I am curious, just kind of understanding a shop, is that like people hear about it in the break room, or is it one colleague tells another? Because there's oftentimes a little bit of, we don't need that here. We have our own stuff. But what in your case, it was like people seemed very open.
As we mentioned before and stuff, we've been doing this, our culture, we've been doing these RCAs, these BDAs for a long time, right? So it was a very easy sell to bring in something new that is different from what we had, but again, easier. We don't have a defined group that does the RCAs. It's everybody. And what better to do the RCA than the technician that was actually there rectifying the situation, right? We don't need the game of telephone that happens sometimes where information gets lost. Mm-hmm. So we want the technicians, the individuals that are actually doing the repair or rectifying the situation to be doing the RCAs. And like you said, that they started discussing it amongst themselves on the ease of use, what the output actually was and the way things could be tracked. It spread like wildfire.
The last part with the kind of RCAs is a lot of our part in our industry is on contemporaneous gathering of information and data. And so when we would go and do a rapid response because of an issue on a line, this now gives us a software that we can pull up on the line and document live and have a basic understanding of the root cause within a very short amount of time.
That's great. Well, that's very encouraging. I know that's going to be encouraging to our team. They work very hard at building software that is usable. One of our core values as a company is to add value to our customers. And so just even you all saying technicians are using this is very encouraging. So it's not merely this top-down you must, but it sounds like there's a culture of we want to solve problems and use this well. How has specifically in the software, there's an action center that allows for the creation of actions and tracking of them. How has that been useful for, managing tasks and follow-ups in your setting?
It's great. It didn't deviate much from the previous process that we had. When we look specifically at our maintenance department, we do have a shift turnover. So at the end of every shift, there's a crossover between the two shifts where information is exchanged. We have our boards and slides that we go through to capture that. Previously, we also had the information, as you were talking about, the tasks, the countermeasures from our old system being displayed. One of the great things that we found with Easy RCA is the webhooks, the availability of the data being in there. So it wasn't that much of a transition for me to go in and utilize Power BI, grab the information from the webhook, and move it to a task lists that is exactly as everyone was used to seeing. So there was very little lag between moving from one system to another because the information was being presented the exact same way. That gives them the ability during these shift turnovers, see what current RCAs are pending for them to input on based off our criteria for creation, the tasks that they're assigned, and go right to it down to Easy RCA and complete those tasks.
Keep working on it. So just to kind of say back to you, it sounds like you guys had a process in place for tasks. And one benefit was, for those listeners who aren't maybe as technical, we have webhooks. Basically, it means you can get all the data out of the system. And Corey was able to effectively pull that data into the existing task management system and display it. So as far as everybody was concerned, they didn't notice a difference at all from a task perspective.
Exactly, Sebastian. It was a very fluent crossover going into this system. Then, you go back to what we had and then to Easy RCA, it was much easier for them now to go in and take care of those tasks and rectify those tasks. In addition to the tracking that Easy RCA provides on task due dates, it allows us to have that visible in front of the technicians at every single shift turnover on when deadlines are coming up for completion.
It's good. Well, and you mentioned Power BI, and I'm gonna talk about that for a second, Corey, because I feel like I need to say it publicly. Corey, you've been like a power user of these webhooks in Power BI, and in fact, you have informed some of the Power BI dashboards that we provide other customers because you've done such a good job at that. What have you done, and how have you thought through taking data from these RCAs and leveraging that across the organization? What have you been doing in Power BI, and how's that been helping?
Besides that tracking ability of stuff and having it there in front of everyone's face at shift turnover multiple times a day, we get to keep on top of things. We need to keep things organized, keep things current and up to date. Also, that helps us implement these countermeasures that the RCA is driving, so we don't have these repeat occurrences. Again, coming as a former technician myself, I understand that mindset. Color coding. Having a simple color code being displayed and stuff on a certain task when it's approaching a deadline, right? Anything that we can do to drag your eye and call focus on that. In addition, we can go down further from the reliability standpoint and use that historical information and find those troublemakers, right? In reliability, we're always looking for those repeats or those troublemakers. By having the data extracted, we can go through and look down to specific equipment or area levels and find out where we need to spend that extra time, that extra focus on for some of these repeat offenders, for some of the things that might cross between areas and equipment. Having the bulk of that data there available to be pulled through helps drive those decisions that are going to prevent those future RCAs being generated.
It's great. Well, I want to kind of stick on this vein of just results that you all are getting. And maybe, Kaylee, you can let us know how, kind of from a results perspective, if there's any measurable benefits that you've seen. It could be morale, but we always like to hear if there are kind of quantifiable metrics as well that you may have seen kind of since implementing Easy RCA.
Just right off the bat, the first thing I go to is just the timeliness. I think we are able to get through our RCAs and our BDAs, work with our techs in a much more efficient manner. As Corey kind of mentioned, the older system had just gotten aged to a point that it got really time consuming and cumbersome. And then you kind of fought a little bit to get that RCA done. And I find we're not fighting that quite as much. So just completion rates and time from start to finish has shortened up. Because, as you mentioned, we're about a year into Easy RCA. We're going to go back into our first kind of big deep dive into what did we see in the last year? What are our repeat offenders, and do that data dig. So I feel like once we get that data dig done, then we'll be able to kind of see what those quantifiable metrics are. But right now, exact numbers, biggest thing has been ease and efficiency.
That's great. Well, and it's interesting you say that, even that you're doing this kind of 1 year deep dive. We try to tell folks, year one should just be about getting people to adopt the system and start doing things. I mean, obviously we always have to worry about how good they are and completeness and everything, but like, obviously just getting people doing and then start to kind of optimize. Okay, now we want them to be better and better. And then kind of we start to talk about by year 3, we want to start being more strategic even. So we're actually choosing do this one, not that one, based on what the benefits can be of, a repeat offender being eliminated, et cetera.
Kind of how we've done that in year 1 has been we implement with our old system, we implemented it again with this system is we have a review. So our techs will go through and complete the BDAs, but then they'll connect in with the reliability team to review it, see, make sure we dig deep enough, did we put the right countermeasures? And so we've kind of incorporated that already into our process, and we'll just continue to grow that as the years go on.
Since EasyRCA has those statuses of the RCAs, whether they're the pending, in process, we're actually using those as trigger points, right? So we're monitoring our internal software for line downtime. And we have internal triggers that trigger the RCA. So we'll have a small group of people that are actually generating the RCA in a pending status and assigning it to that technician. So when the technician starts and sees that he has one assigned to him, he changes the status to the in process. He starts populating it. So we use the statuses of the RCA to trigger that process back and forth to the different stages where it's at. You need to do it. It's done and need reviewed, and it's been reviewed by reliability and complete.
That's great. Is there a specific kind of story or example of like, here's a problem that we solved using EasyRCA that was, just encouraging to know that you guys solved a problem internally using the software?
Say about every RCA we're doing, right? Because I mean, that's the purpose of it. And, that's why we are relying on it. It's continuously driving the culture here that we have to let's get to the root cause of this. Let's drive it to completion.
No, just adding to kind of what Corey said, I think one of the most encouraging things when we first started was when we were talking through the different AI features to kind of help with that live troubleshooting, having one of our electrical technicians he came to us and told us how helpful it was in kind of reducing that downtime because he was stuck. He didn't quite know what his next step needed to be, utilized the tool. It provided him an idea of what it could be. He went down that rabbit hole and it wound up getting the equipment back up and running sooner. So
that's great.
That's kind of encouraging to kind of share with the rest of the team as well.
Very much so. Very much so. Absolutely. In terms of kind of wish list, what's on your wish list for kind of new features or new things that you want to see?
That's one thing that I have to say also, Sebastian, is working with your team. We have bi-weekly calls set up with representatives. They're very responsive to anything that we bring to them. So that wish list, that, hey, we used to have this ability or we currently are doing this. Is there any way to add that? And as you pointed out earlier, some of those things are being incorporated, the color coding, the bringing that in. I think the last thing on our list is changing the status.
Yeah, being able to change the status inside the RCA.
Right.
One of the recent ones that I know was on our wish list and got rectified was being able to see like when it last saved in that bottom corner. Like that's kind of helpful to us to make sure it's still updating and saving to the systems.
I love this. There's all these features in the product now with Haleon's name on it. It's philosophically, that is how we develop software. We find the best way to do it is listening to our users. Now, obviously, sometimes requests come in where it's like, that's just only one company, super specific. And so in those cases, we have to think to ourselves, how can we build that in a way that isn't just one thing for one customer, but can be useful? But so many of the things that you've given us feedback on have been, I think, really useful. And that's an interesting one you just mentioned, Kaylee, just something as simple as, hey, just let us know that it got saved, because it's auto saving all the time, but it's nice to know that it actually happened so people just have peace of mind and aren't left wondering, right? So I love that that's such a simple feature, but so helpful in the process. If you were to give advice to another company maybe considering EasyRCA, what might you say?
Take the free trial. I think that for us, just utilizing that free trial to really dive into it and use it in place of whatever RCA tool you currently have. I think I'm very much a kinesthetic learner that like I need to do, like play with it and
Right.
as the best way to learn. So between just utilize the free trial and then kind of as Corey's done with the webhooks, like dive in to understand how you can pull the data that you're generating and putting in to then present out to your company. Like I think being able to format it in your own way too has both of those things I think are great to John.
And when you're going
great.
into it, just understand what your end goal is, right? Understand why you need this as part of your culture, why you need this as part of your company, and what your end results that you want out of it are. For us, it was replacing an aging process, right? But there's all those things that we found along the way with our journey with you that has increased the visibility, the ability to, again, it's that standardized format. Anyone up to a global level, when there's something that comes out of Lincoln, it is all looking the same format, same structure. It's that professionalism, right? It's the representing, we're doing things together.
Great. And I like what you just said there in terms of like know what problem you're solving. And again, obviously we're biased towards ours, but any other tool solves a specific problem. Then you can get these other ancillary benefits you didn't even know about because it solved that one problem really well. Hey, before we go, kind of last question. We've ended up obviously talking a lot about Easy RCA, but just dialing back a little bit. I always like to ask folks, hey, is there any other kind of one last piece of advice you'd love to give other reliability professionals or maintenance professionals, just kind of like as you're learning from your many years of doing excellent work that you'd like to kind of pass on?
It's the data. It's one of the things we always like to say, trust your gut. But for us in reliability and those departments and stuff, use the information that's available to you. Right? You'll have things that you don't obviously see or you overlook. Use the different sources of information to actually drive down to that root cause and solve that problem.
Excellent.
And stay curious. Stay curious, ask the questions, and then I agree with what Corey was saying. Data is such a big thing. Trust the data. The data is not going to lie to you.
It's great. I love putting those two together. Be curious and then look for data to help kind of solve problems. So that's great. Well, it's been great having the two of you. Thank you, Kaylee and Corey, for joining us today. Again, they've been with Haleon. We really appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah.
And to all of our listeners, this podcast is really about helping engineers and really anybody take steps to use technology and to solve problems. If you're looking for RCA training, we'd encourage you to take a look at our company Reliability Center for resources and materials. Check out reliability.com. And if you are looking for a software solution to make doing RCAs easy, we would encourage you to check out our software, Easy RCA. Thank you all so much for joining us. That's all we have today. And thanks for joining us and helping to make the world a more reliable place. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care, everyone.